Hello there, welcome back to IT Security Labs. And if this is the first time you coming to my channel, my name is Howard. And today we have a very fun machine. We're going to learn how to attack a Windows machine. In this case, it's an Active Directory domain controller, which is one of the most important computers on a network that is Windows based. So we're going to learn how to attack a machine, break into a machine. Then, of course, we will figure out if we can detect that traffic. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. We do this every Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And just to give you an idea of what we're up to, we're going to enumerate a domain controller. I'll show you my methodology. You always have to have sort of a step-by-step way that works for you. And in this case, we'll find a way to break in. And there's a service called Tada. I don't know how to pronounce that. This service is vulnerable, and this vulnerability was just found just last week, so it's not well known, but we're going to exploit it anyway in Windows. The proof of concept that you'll find out there is for Linux, but I converted it to Windows. Make sure that it works for us. Then after that, we will work with mimikez. Today I wanted to focus on mimikez so that we can run mimikez, dump some password hashes, maybe crack the hashes, and also maybe do a golden ticket attack and see if we can spawn a show on other machines. And I'm very excited to say Splunk is back. We actually have host-based detection system today where we have Sysmon that's running on our Windows computer. We also have PowerShell logging, which is also running. So I'm excited to see the detect traffic from the host itself in Splunk. Then, of course, my favorite, network traffic from Splunk, from Security Onion. So we'll be doing all that today in the next hour or so. So I'm very excited. Phil, it's good to see you, and BT, Mike, as always. Then the OP bro. These people always show up every week to support, and I'm very happy that you're here. All right, so if you're just starting out, this is a little bit about myself. I started at Help Desk in IT, and I now work in cybersecurity. And I also have a few certifications, including the OSCP and the CISSP, and a couple others. So that's my background. I'm still learning, and that's why we do these live streams. So here's our network diagram. We actually have a Kali Linux right here, and we have a unified layer 3 switch. We are mirroring traffic to Security Onion network intrusion detection system, which is very, very effective in this case. Then we also have Splunk that's running right here. We have Windows Event Forwarder, Sysmon, PowerShell logging, and Win events that are coming to here from our domain controller. So this is a very comprehensive attack and detect lab. And that's why we will do both attacking and also investigate. Really, I want to find out if these systems actually talk a lot. So if you want to set this one up, BT has a video on how you can set up the detection lab. I did not create detection lab. It's the same one that Chris Long has. If you have seen it, there's a whole GitHub page with automation on how to set it up. It's very simple and straightforward. I just put vulnerabilities in it, and then I just start detecting pretty much. All right, so what do we have really? Security Onion. I verified that it's capturing traffic. As you can see here, this was just my little test. We'll be looking into all of our traffic in here. We also have Splunk. And as you can see, in the past hour, I'm seeing events. So this is really cool stuff. If you want to follow along, download the machine. It's in the description. And hopefully you will be able to set the machine. It's like 10 gigs. So maybe you want to do it after I'm done. There's more things that you can do other than what I'm doing today. All right, so first, let's go to our Kali Linux machine. My machine is on 192.168.38.199. I start with a ping because I want to see, if this thing is responding. In try hack me, I know ping does not always respond. So before we do an nmap scan, last week when we finished our scan, our analysis, we said this week we wanted to try something different. We did not want to give Security Onion the nmap user agent. So I did some research and I found out that we can pass a flag like dash dash args or something like that. So our scan today is going to be different because I don't want to tell, I want to evade security onion pretty much because it always catches us with the user agent. So let's see, where's my command today? All right, so we're going to scan as usual using nmap. We want to see which ports are open so that we can identify what's happening. We want to see service versions if we see any services. We want to use some default scripts in this case. Then we want to scan all TCP ports. This is special. The script args section here, user agent. You can pretty much tell nmap to tell the network whatever user agent you want. And it's kind of nice because then we don't generate a lot of noise in security onion. So that's what we're going to try to prove today, that if we do this, all that traffic that comes from security onion doesn't show up. So let's do that right now. So we're just scanning this IP address. We set up the user agent to Mozilla 42. I could have changed this to whatever I want. And what we're trying to avoid is getting caught right here. So let's refresh. You're going to see that we'll see a lot less. Let me show you what we saw last week. All right, so this is what we saw last week, I believe, with nmap setting up its own user agent and getting caught. It was mostly for HTTP though, where we get caught by the nmap user agent. Today, that's not happening. For all HTTP traffic, we're not going to see that. All right, so let's put this the last 2 hours. This doesn't mean that you don't get caught by other detection rules. The field that I put out there is for mostly HTTP traffic when it says nmap trying to reach out to the ports, HTTP and 443 ports. The other things like MySQL, these don't set any user agents. So we have to figure out how they are detecting nmap because they're still able to detect nmap. So all these ET scans are detecting nmap and none of these set up a user agent. And we can verify that by going to the drill down. So how are they able to catch it? We should be able to look at this rule here and see, okay, what are they looking for? It's probably something. All right. That's interesting. All right, so we're scanning right now. It should finish very soon. As we do our scan, our Splunk is also seeing this traffic. My Splunk also has Suricata and Zik running, but I don't think they're catching nmap scans. That's interesting. I'm generating way too much traffic. It's probably too slow. And by the way, everything is running in here in VMware ESXi. And this is the Windows 10 machine. This is the DC machine that I'm attacking right now. And of course, Windows Event Forwarder is what's forwarding everything to Splunk, which is also running in this machine called Logger. That's just the best detection lab. Nothing really serious out there. All right, maybe I should have ran this earlier. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you can hear me. I will let this one finish because we'd like to make sure that we have everything. One thing that I like to do when I'm doing scans is right. You see, this is where we were before I refreshed. If I do a refresh right now, I should see events spiking here. That's going to be an indicator of compromise right away. Okay, right there. This is when I ran my nmap. You see this jump here? This is how much noise you're generating for Suricata. Like, this is insane. Your baseline is like, 100, 200. Then all of a sudden, 45,000. So if you are doing some monitoring as a security team, you should be very interested in this jump here. Say, okay, what really happened here? And this is just nmap, which is very loud, as you can see. Most of this is going to be Zik connections that we're seeing. I don't think Suricata is alerting a lot. It's going to be Zik. So right now I'm just going to see, okay, what alerts do I have from the last hour? Maybe I should say 30 minutes. All right, so these are identical to the same alerts that you saw from this interface. It's just a different visualization. And like I said, these ones don't set a user agent, but all these are nmap. So even if you set the user agent, you will still get caught. That's the biggest takeaway here. You will be able to catch the script kiddies and people who don't care about getting caught, but a sophisticated attacker, they'll try to evade you anyway. So you might need to have better rules than what I have here. So when you run your nmap scan and you get thrown a bunch of ports, the moment I see 53 and 88 on the same scan result, I think right away it's a Windows domain controller, mostly because of this Kerberos. Kerberos is the authentication server for Windows. So usually when it's a domain controller, it will run DNS, maybe some file shares. People do that. Mostly Kerberos, the Active Directory features, and which is like LDAP in this case, and all these default ports that come open, like 135 and 139, the RPC ports. So what is the first thing that you can do when you see a domain controller? In this case, we also have 445. That's interesting. Maybe we can have some shares there. I see LDAP. I'll just run enum for Linux here and see if I can get lucky with those RPC shares and any exposures that might be there. I also see MySQL, which is kind of odd because people on the domain controller, people don't usually run other services. But I get really useful information from 3389 here. It tells me, hey, the domain is called win domain. So now I have a domain name already from this 3389. This is what people use for remote desktop access, which usually they should whitelist their IP addresses and not let external people access it. And the computer name is dc.windomain.local. That's very important. And we can see some certificate information here. This port here is open by default. I wouldn't waste a lot of time messing with it because I've never found anything interesting from it. So it's one of the last ports that I'll poke on. This one is interesting. 8265. This is not a default port. 8266 and 9389. These ports here are interesting. These three. Whatever they're running, you don't usually see them on a Windows machine. So being able to tell which ports are normal and usually come by default open on a Windows machine and which ones stand out is going to take you, bring you a long way, because if you can't, you'll just be banging your head on every single port, including the default ones, which most of the time don't lead anywhere, like this. This port is useless. And all these RPC ports can be enumerated at the same time. So I wouldn't, I would do those ones last. But I like to come here and see the version of SMB that I'm running because, there's the default SMB1 attacks that you can find. So in this case, we're running version 2. So that's the first thing you need to do. Just do a quick view of all the ports. Try to make sense of what you're looking at and know what's normal and what might stand out. And you'll know that because you would have done a lot of these and you see the same ports over and over again. So let's move on to first tool that I like is for Linux. This is like an automated way of saying, hey, what do you have that I can actually use 199? I think -A, that's the option. Yeah, this machine doesn't talk much with enum for Linux, but usually if for whatever reason RPC is exposing information like usernames and stuff like that, you will see them here. You also likely to see any shares like SMB shares that might be coming from the machine. But in this case, we see that we have Win10 domain, Win domain, and Win10. Okay, but this is not giving us any information of interest. 445 is most likely not going to give us anything in this case. So I'm going to go to the port, like MySQL. I think I saw MySQL open. I don't know why I'm running MySQL on this thing. I think I was trying to test something. There's nothing on MySQL. So let's move on to the random ports that are here. These two, because those ones do stand out to us. 8265, TCP open. Are they HTTP or I think usually I've seen people do this. Just check, okay, what is this port going to say? Connection refused. One and 2.168.38.199.8265. Let me try 8266 as well. Okay, so it doesn't like that connection, but that should also be logged by our intrusion detection system, by the way, even though it failed. I also had opened the same browser in my browser right here because I knew it works. So let's see. Maybe it's just a little slow. But if everything works correctly, we should be able to see this page here. And if it doesn't, we need to figure out why it's not. All right. Let's go here. All right, there it is. I think it's trying to connect. If you downloaded the VM that I sent you, it should automatically start. I created a scheduled task that will start the service. So let me make sure that my service is running. Okay. Just in case I accidentally stopped it before we started. All right, so while the service is coming back up, let's look at the other stuff that came up there as well. Let's find out what else did Nmap give us? Because you don't usually just find what you're looking for right away. What is this? Can I connect to that? This is literally what you do as you go through these ports. Try to say, okay, sometimes these things can be a mystery. And in this case, you just try to connect and see, oh, I can't connect. Most of the time when you go for things like the OSCP, you go through these ports and nothing works. Most likely you didn't enumerate enough. You just probably just tried once like I'm doing here and you moved on and you actually missed it. In this case, my service is just corrupted. So let's try it again. Okay. So, right, it says it's a TDAAR service. Once it starts, we'll be able to interact with it. But what is this? What is that service anyway? This is where you just go to maybe exploit DB and you search for that service name. So let's just start from right here. In this case, you don't have to search far. It is the latest one. As you can see, this is from the 11th. They say there's an exploit for it. That's the service that we see. It's loading right here. It's a TDAR server. So what are we looking at here? What is that? Once it loads, let's see. I just wanted a simple way for us to break in and also practice interacting with public exploits and really getting good at looking at someone's proof of concept and thinking outside of the box. This is a very minimal proof of concept by Sam Smith, but at the same time, it works. And I made it work. We say, okay, the help tab contains a terminal for both these two things. And these terminals do not include input filtering, which allows the user to chain commands and spawn a reverse shell. Okay, so it looks like there's a help tab on our service. And if you go and chain commands like this, we should be able to just start running commands on the system. It doesn't get any easier than this. But how do we do it then? This looks like it was Windows. This was Linux. Say they were looking for etc password. And they gave us a couple options here. We can run a script. We can run whatever we want. We just have to separate with a semicolon. That was for Linux. Okay, the service finally loaded for us. They said, according to this thing here, it's the help tab. So I'm just going to find it. Where's the help tab? All right. It comes with preloaded with -- help. Let's run the help. Okay. So it looks like the system just gives us the ability to run help. What else? They separated their commands with a semicolon. Semicolon, who am I? If this works on Windows, I should see the name. But it doesn't work. This is where I think being comfortable with things that don't work should be a priority for you. Just because you tried the way the proof of concept is saying, doesn't mean it doesn't work. A lot of people come here and say, well, this doesn't work, and they will move on. And persistent people like myself will be like, wait a second, it should still work. I know that they tested it on Windows, on Linux, so how do I make it work in Windows? And at this point, I'm going to ask people who joined me. I need some input. What can I try to make it work? Because it doesn't work right now, but proof of concept says it does. Let me know in the comments what you think I should do before I show you what I did. I want to see if people actually think about it, because I don't think we should just move on because it gave us nothing. I looked at the page source because I thought maybe this thing is, there's an error. No, nothing. So what can we do? BT, let me know in the comments. Mike, I'm waiting. What can I do? Because I can't just say it doesn't work and then just give up. While people are typing, I know there's a delay. Yes, Eckhart says, let's use burp. I like that idea. I really like that actually. We can use burp suite. Someone says, let's use PowerShell instead. Yeah. You know what? I don't know why I was being lazy. I didn't use burp suite, but this is a classic example of where burp suite will really shine. Eric T says, yes. Underboss, people are saying, wait, try other characters other than the semicolon. That's exactly what I was thinking. And I hope, I mean, this might be something very little, but a lot of people, you go to the OSCP, they'll put silly things like this. You bang your head on a wall, like, oh, what am I supposed to do? It doesn't work. Then you move on. Someone says, hey, let's try put end. I think two people did that. All right. I put two ends. Maybe one will work, maybe two will work. Let's find out. All right. So end did bring results. So if we typed who am I, we should see a name of a person. So it's simple. We put two ends. I think one end will also work. So let's move on. Where am I? I'm on the win domain as Vagrant. Silly things like this, I'm telling you, they will get you, especially if you are not paying attention. And thank you guys for suggesting that. But this is a classic example where we should have used burp, but since we can run commands here, let's try something else. Who am I? Let's do an IP config. This is a Windows machine, by the way. So we need to run Windows commands. With IP config, we are expecting IP address information. And if you look all the way at the bottom here, we're in business. This exploit, like I said, was published a few days ago. There's a lot of these services running on the internet right now. And this is the latest version so far. I think they patched it, but you'll see a lot of people haven't updated it. Okay. So this brings us to our next order of business. Depending on what you like and how you like to get your reverse shells, this is where you can get creative. I have three options that I like. I upload Netcat, then just run the Netcat command and I get a reverse shell. That one usually is safe and usually it's a very stable shell. Problem is if you upload netcat.exe and the firewall, Windows Defender, whatever is running over there, it will remove it the moment it gets there. You're also assuming that you have privileges, right, to run things. So if you want to know right away, okay, what kind of permissions do I have as this Vagrant? It will tell me, oh, you have everything. It's your lucky day. So you can run executables with all these permissions here. I mean, you're an admin on the system. So with that, maybe let's do a couple of things. Let's do a nisheng. You know, I like nisheng. It's a lazy man's reverse shell. Super simple to set up, and you can get it working in one command. So let's do a nisheng. Then we'll upload Netcat, mostly because I want my intrusion detection system to go crazy and detect both. And it's good practice for those who are not too comfortable with getting reverse shells with Windows. So on your curl, if you say locate nisheng, you should have a nisheng directory. You want to be in this directory here, the nisheng shells. If you don't have that, you can just get nisheng from GitHub. Let me show you what's there. So what we are after here is a reverse shell. Nisheng will give you a reverse shell without working too hard because it doesn't actually do much. You use PowerShell. And here, the one that actually gives you a reverse shell is the um, which one? I forgot its name. I think it's invoke PowerShell TCP one-liner. I think it's this one. Oh no, it's this one. Let me just show you what's in here. With this PowerShell script, what it will do is you can execute this PowerShell script remotely on the system, and it will give you a reverse shell. And the way it works is it will try to establish a connection using the example that is up here. It will run the invoke TCP module that comes with initiation, and it will get a reverse. Then you say IP address. Then you put your IP address here. It doesn't have to be an IPv6. This is just an example. Then you put port 444 that you want. So what I usually do is I copy this example, put it all the way at the bottom of this initiation script, and then my final script will look like this. Let me just do a head, or maybe tail. So I copy and paste that example, and I put it all the way at the end of the same script, a copy of the same script. And that's all you need to do. Once you do that, put your IP address of your Kali Linux here. In this case, we're at 201. So put your IP address here and your desired port. In this case, lazy me left 444. Maybe I don't want 444 anymore. So this is a copy of that initiation script that I showed you. Forget 444. Let's put 666. All right. Once you have a copy of initiation, you updated that one-liner at the end. Host your PowerShell. Host your HTTP server. I mean, Python 3-m http.server on 80. All right, HTTP server is on. All we need to do, because I've done this, is run PowerShell on our system, download the same file, just like this. This should work. Yeah, something like this. So we're using PowerShell to download it and execute at the same time, using execution policy of bypass. This one, I like this one better. And I'll explain what this is doing once we put it in the folder. So we are hosting here, make sure that it's ready. Then we come here and say, hey, we should have tested if PowerShell is there. This is our 201. So what this is going to do is going to say, hey, PowerShell, run it in execution policy of bypass. If you don't put this, it might not run. You need to tell PowerShell is this thing called execution policies. If you want it to run external scripts, PowerShell by default comes locked up. It doesn't like to run unsigned and unknown scripts. So you need to tell it, hey, bypass execution policy. And any user who has access to PowerShell can actually tell it to bypass. Then in this case, we're using the new object module to download this PowerShell script and run it at the same time. So that's very important. We're also going to run it by doing this. And that's why I like this more, is because we don't have to do 2 steps. So if we run it, what I need to do is I need to start a listener on 6666, which is my port that I put in my niching. All right, so two things. Ready? Now, moment of truth. Is this going to run? Okay. The easiest way for me to tell is going to be this. I'm going to see a 200, okay? Then I know that it ran. And it doesn't seem like it's running. Do I need to click a couple times here? It's spinning in the background. It will probably run in a second here. Let's be a little patient. Oh, there it is. So I clicked it twice, then it did it twice. So since my niching made it, I also got a reverse shell on 666. Very easy way of getting reverse shells on Windows. So now I'm actually on the system, so I can do a Netcat. So I'm interacting with the system. That's one way. Let's do it the Netcat way, because why not, right? And that shell is actually usually stable. Then the third way is we can use MSF Venom, generate our own payload, and get it there as well. Okay, I'm going to stop that one because it worked. Next, let's do Netcat. On Kali, it usually comes with Netcat, especially if you have some of these tools preloaded. You want a 64-bit Netcat version, and I have a ton of Netcats. The one that I found to be very reliable is the one you find in the user share resource binaries. You want to copy that one. So just copy that, or just host that and copy it to the victim. I already have it in the same directory where I was hosting my shell, netcat.exe. It's a 64-bit version. Let's do the same thing. Host it here. Let's deliver this Netcat to the victim, then execute it, assuming Windows Defender doesn't remove it. All right, so now that we are hosting our Netcat, how do we get it there? There's a tool called setutil. It's like living off the land. Actually, I might have a command here. There we go. You see, I've done this before. So all I need to do is use setutil. You can use PowerShell to download it, but this time I want to use setutil so we can also track it down in our intrusion detection system. This is a tool that's usually used for certificate management on Windows. Attackers like to use it for moving files like the way we're doing right now. So going back here, we're saying, okay, it was fun interacting with PowerShell. We hope PowerShell logged that. And let's change this to 201. Everything should work. This is going to be in the temp directory. So when I try to execute Netcat to get my reverse shell, I should be I should point to the temp directory. Most of the time in Windows, anyone can write to this directory. All right. Again, we should be able to tell if it ran correctly because it will reach out to here. And like last time, this might even take a minute or so. But let me verify. Run it again. Let's give it a minute. This is what's difficult in Windows. If you don't have multiple ways of delivering your payloads or getting your reverse shells, sometimes one way does not work. So you are going to need these multiple ways of getting a reverse shell. And at any given time when we do this, Windows will actually give us a reverse shell. So I'm just verifying here to make sure that it's actually working. Does it not like setutil? I might have to use wget or something if it doesn't like setutil. Oh, never mind. I'm so impatient. Look how many times I downloaded my Netcat. This is why I like to host an HTTP server. Then I can see the GET request. So we uploaded Netcat multiple times. To make sure that it's there, Let me just mess with this. I don't know if this is necessary. So I'm just running the dir command against the temp folder to see what's in there because I'm now interested. All right, while it's running, let's craft our command to get our reverse shell with Netcat. All right, first my dir command finished, and here's my Netcat sitting. It's happy. It's in there. Windows Defender didn't remove it, so I confirmed it's sitting there. After that, let's just execute it and get our reverse shell. So first I'll point to that directory with the exact name that I gave it. Then I say, hey, Netcat, execute Windows command line, cmd.exe, point to this IP address on port 6644. So before I do anything, I need to go and listen on 6644. Okay, this is same. All right. Run it. If I were you and this is the first time seeing this, I would put it in your notes because you don't want to deal with syntax and worrying and Googling these things every time you have to do Netcat. You're always Googling and adding 50 seconds to your workflow. Just write it in your notes and then you can search for it later. So if this worked, I got a reverse shell again. Where am I? I'm in as the user vagrant. Third and final way is to just use MSO Venom and generate your own payload. You can even try to hash it and then get a reverse shell that way. But I don't want to spend too much time on, getting reverse shells. But just know it's not the final way. Actually, I said third and final, but there's other ways. These are just my preferred ways. So I'm in on the system right now, and I can say cdc. First thing that I do when I get on a system is clear screen. Okay, am I such prevs? I think prevs would tell me prev, not prevs. I want to see what can I do here. And in this case, this is the whole kitchen sink. You're in as an administrator and you can manage this machine. This was by design because I didn't want to do privilege escalation, then attack Active Directory. I wanted to jump straight into Active Directory attacks once we do this, right? So once we're in, we see that we can pretty much do a lot of things here. I mean, we're in admin. Let's move on to Active Directory. If you do a dir, we know this is an Active Directory domain, and our main job here is now figure out, can I get information about the domain? Can I get information about the domain users? And can I get information about like the domain trust, computers that are connected, and things like that? Today, I'm very excited about users. I want to find out the users, who are the users. I want to dump their password hashes. I want to do a golden ticket attack where I can try to see if I can, using the golden ticket, connect to other computers in the domain, which is kind of crazy to think about. And that's what I want to just do today, but there's a lot of things that you can do. In this case, you have a tools directory here. Administrators do this all the time. They want to make their life easier. For whatever reason, they put tools there. If you wanted, you can go to your system. Locate your mimikez.exe. Make sure that it's a 64-bit version of mimikez, so not this one, but this one. So what I'll just do is maybe something like this. Copy your mimikez here. Do the same deal that we did with HTTP server. Use the same command with setutil and get that mimikez to your temp folder. Well, or you can run it from here, or you can run it in your terminal. I like here because I can edit. Sometimes the terminal can be clunky with editing, so let's do it here. The reason why mimikez is the first thing that comes to mind is because the moment I get there, I like to get a password so I can actually get in using remote desktop, where I can actually do even more work and more interesting things than rely on a reverse shell that I just got there. And that's why I like to dump the password hashes and crack them right away. Okay, all right. Let's get mimikez to our system. 200, okay. We're in business. Oh, I cannot do that. I think it's temp, like that. And here's my mimikez. When you transfer binaries to the system, always check the size. Sometimes if you see this to be a tiny value, your binary was probably not transferred correctly. That happens all the time, where during transition, bad things happen. Okay, so I have mimikez here. Let's see if I can just run it. All right, we're in business. Let's see. I have a mimikez user guide that I'm going to follow here because, as you can imagine, I didn't memorize all this stuff. First, I think you need to see the 200 okay. Give me 1 second. You need to do the privileges debug. There's all kinds of guides that you can find from the internet, but what I'm going to show you here is just like one of them. So the privilege debug here, I think it shows us that you can actually see things. So Mike say, okay, yeah. So I can actually run mimikez. First thing, I'm following a guide here. Let's dump all the hashes. That's the ls dump command. I think I can do this time. Okay, the ls dump, LSA, this will dump all the hashes on this system. I'm not even enumerating the domain yet. I'm just saying, hey system, let me know what can I get from you. And I'm saying, give me the hashes. This is a very, very interesting thing because we see NTLM hashes and the usernames. All the users actually are here. And it can't be any easier than this. Now you have users, you have their hashes. We can try to crack these hashes. If they don't have a good password policy, we'll probably get a bunch of passwords. I'm very excited about these service accounts and see where they're being used on the system, because just because I showed up on the domain and I'm my local admin here doesn't mean that this is going to help me much. As an attacker, I'm probably after a database somewhere that has really juicy information. You know, I'm after maybe a system that is running financial information or something like that, not necessarily to get root or admin on systems. That's not usually the main objective, even though it leads us there. But I see real users. Yeah, if you have a mimikez tutorial, please post them. Because what I'm showing up here is just a few of many things that people can do. But this is exciting. If you find yourself at this place, you should be doing a little happy dance as an attacker because, hey, your next goal now is you have users, you have their hashes. To maximize your chances of success, query the Active Directory and say, okay, give me all the users that are administrators, because then you can focus on those instead of everybody else. Because if some of these users are, say, regular employees who have no access to anything, that may not be as exciting. But as you can see, we have a ton of NTLM hashes. So these are all users that were generated. I would like to get better access to the system than a reverse shell. So what you can do is maybe just grab the administrator. Then let's say create a file called hashes. I already took the Vagrant hash. I picked some random user here, but let's add them here. I'm doing this to show you the format that you need to put the hashes in your file, because it does matter when you try to crack them. So I have a user called administrator. You need to put a colon, then of course the administrator's hash. Where did the hash go? This one. I've seen people write really cool bash scripts that will just say, hey, grep NTLM and user, then format them and put them in that direction, which is kind of neat. I was too lazy today. I didn't even put a chance to put a one-liner to do that. But this is the format you need to put those hashes for every user that you dump. Then once you do this, I don't think this user has any. This is not an interesting password too. The administrator will probably not crack. Let's pick a random another random user, because I'm not about to crack all those users. Some of them I set them without passwords, and some of them have passwords. I can't tell, and this might take a long time. Okay, let's crack the two that are interesting. Vagrant, which is the one that the user that we are, and the administrator, which I made a mistake. All right. Thank you. All right, now let's just use John to crack this. And I'll give you the syntax. If you're curious, like, oh, why does this guy like to copy paste? It's because I hate being stuck in random syntax land. I'm really not in the business of memorizing syntax, but I need to know what I'm running, which is what I'm going to explain here. I'm running John, which is a brute forcing tool. I'm telling John, hey, by the way, these are NTLM hashes. So you tell it format is NT. Against the file, in this case, it's called hashes. It could be hashes.txt, it doesn't matter. My word list, I'm just going to use roku.txt because that's what we have. And that's interesting. Okay, we do have a Vagrant. Vagrant is user in password. Just wanted to make it easy to crack. So now that you have a password, going back to our results, and we have remote desktop open, it makes sense to you that you just go and RDP and get in there. And then now you actually have a very stable system. You can run commands from PowerShell from within the system without relying on a reverse shell. Or if you want, you can now start running fun tools like Active Directory tools like the ones we ran a few weeks ago. Because now you have a username, you have a password, you can just start enumerating Active Directory with a valid user. And from now, really, everything can just work. So let's do this. I'm going to use a tool called Remina. XRDP, I know a lot of people like XRDP. This is a remote desktop app. I'm going to tell it to connect to my system. You just click add, and it comes default with the latest version of Kali. I put the username of Vagrant, password of Vagrant. The domain is win domain. And save and connect. I probably need to adjust the resolution because sometimes it's clunky, but I'm getting in as a regular user. I hope these people are actually doing some logging because by me getting in this way, I'm going to start, hopefully we can do some more Active Directory enumeration to see like, okay, who are the users and things like that. Okay, there we go. So once we're in, I like PowerShell better. In particular, I like PowerShell ISE. I know that I'm an administrator, so I'll run it as an administrator. This is unprecedented access now. Let me know what else you want us to do other than the dumping of the hashes. Actually, I know. Let's try to get the golden ticket. That's what I said earlier. Holy smokes, this is small. It's tiny. Let me see if I can fix this so you can see better. Font. All right, that's much better. Okay, now let's go to CD. C. I'll show you. We also have mimikez on the system for those who don't want to make a copy. We have a tools directory with Active Directory tools so that you can do even more after this is done. So if you do there, really? I thought for sure I had mimikez. Let's check. That's unfortunate. Let's ask the system, okay, what can you tell me about yourself? I got in the wrong system. How did this happen? It's saying Windows 10. Did I just get in the wrong system? Okay, let's disconnect. $119. Yeah, I have two systems. I have a Windows 10 on $199, and now I'm going to 119. I was like, what is going on here? So let's redo that with 119. That's a good one. It's a good thing that I knew what to expect, right? Okay, so that XRDP is asking me, okay, what do you want me to do? Let me connect. All right. So we're in. Let's open our terminal here. Make everything bigger. I think I did 28 last time. CD C tools there. So if you come in the tools, our machine comes with all kinds of really good things like PowerSploit is there, PaperSharp is in there, so you can actually interact with all these tools and practice as much as you want. I'm only interested in mimikez. And I want to do, don't just like Windows, doesn't care about caps. I have two types of mimikez. I have a 32-bit and a 64-bit. I want the 64-bit. Now I'm in here. I see mimikez. .exe. This time, let's take it further. Let's say, okay, we want what is known as a golden ticket. And what happens is if you generate a golden ticket, you can just spawn a shell on other systems. Sometimes maybe you didn't succeed in cracking the hash, but you still want to laterally move across the network to other system. That's where this might come in handy. I don't know if this will actually connect to my Windows 10, but I'm actually interested to see how it works. And for that, I actually have commands here. First, we need to be in the debug mode, by the way. Give me 1 second. So once we get in the debug mode, 200, okay, it's kind of cool that I can actually copy and paste from my machine inside of the other one. So first, this should dump the hash and the security identifier of the ticket granting ticket. This command here, this is going to give us the hash that we're going to need to be able to open other terminals. All right. And as you can see, we did get some information. You have to like mimikez. There's so many things that we can do. So this is the hash that the primary one is the one that I'm interested in. And the syntax to create a golden ticket is this. I'm going to open OneNote here. This is the golden ticket syntax that I'm going to be using. And what it's going to do is you need to specify a user for it, the domain. So you need to change that domain to whatever domain you're interacting with. The SID, this value, you found it right here. Is this value. Let's go. This hash is equivalent to this one, the NTLM, the primary one. And then, of course, we need a user ID. If anyone knows where the user ID is found, I think I found it to be 500 for this one. And when we do this, we'll generate a golden ticket that we can use and try to pass on the domain to see if we can just sign in without a password. Let's see if I can copy and paste, because I'm not typing that. All right, so that succeeded. We now have our ticket. The last command we need to run to try to spawn shells. In this case, I don't think it's going to, because my machines might not be properly connected to the domain. But if they were, this will spawn a new terminal to other domain joined machines, and I should see it. In this case, I think it just spawned one. It was supposed to spawn multiple. Let me do an IP config. All right, so this is 119, that's us. So it only spawned on our machine, but if we had other machines, this would have spawned another one on the side. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, 500 is for the admin account. So next, I need to make sure that my machines are properly joined to the domain, and I really am dying to see this pop up other shells. But being able to crack passwords that we get from mimikez and doing this really does go a long way. I hope this is not confusing for a lot of people, but there's more things that we can do here. I plan on picking on maybe a couple every week or every time we do this, so that at least we don't do everything at once. But this is really cool stuff right here. This brings me to the next section here, which I'm very excited about. Remember, we still have this intrusion detection system that's just sitting here. We said we were listening, so our intrusion detection system is twofold. We have host-based with sysmon, and we're forwarding all of our Windows events to Splunk. And we also have our network here. Today we have a very interesting alert that really excites me. Straka, this tool here, caught our mimikez string, and this is really good because we have never triggered it before. So what usually happens is when traffic is moving across a network, we're investigating it, we're looking at it using Suricata, which does alert, and Straka does look at files that are moving, right? And of those files, Straka uses YARA rules in the background, and of these files, it breaks down the file and tries to see if it's a known string or hash that is in the YARA rules that are defined just like snort rules. And in this case, it's saying, hey, we saw mimikez. In a real production environment, either an admin is trying to run mimikez to test their systems, or you're being pen tested. Otherwise, there shouldn't be a reason why we should see mimikez. So for the first time, let's look at a Straka rule. These are the file scanners that it used, and we used a YARA scanner. There's even more scan hash in other scanners, but I'm not sure if this was a YARA rule that caught this one or not. But I'm interested in seeing file source. How do I read these? The rule description detects mimikez skeleton key in memory. Okay, what does that look like? Here is all the data that we have. That's just the metadata for YARA though. I mean for well, maybe it's the header that they're looking at. I need to get better at Straka, but it looks like that's what they were looking for. So this shows us that someone is running mimikez in our system. This is very good because this is on a network. From the network perspective, we triggered one rule. So if you're going to be moving mimikez, maybe it's not a good idea to just use setutil the way I did it. Maybe zip that file, maybe encode it or something. Just don't move the way I did it. Otherwise, simple rules like this will actually just catch you on the network. All right, let's go back. Because we were hiding from nmap today, we didn't trigger a bunch of nmap results, which I don't think I should always remove that. But we do see a bunch of other default nmap traffic. This is all default traffic here because we've seen it so many times. So there isn't really much going on here. This one is just a default one. What we can do though is we can do some hunting and figure out, okay, what else can we find based on what we now know? But before we do that, let's jump to Splunk. Splunk, I'm using it for host-based intrusion detection system. We did a lot on the host. I mean, we fired mimikez, we moved files, we ran executables. I don't have a lot of interesting rules in Splunk that we created. So we're going to use it mostly to just track down our traffic and see what it looks like in Splunk. And this is a good example for us to get really comfortable. Just interacting with data within both, Security Onion, Kibana, or just in Splunk. Our Splunk comes with a default, almost like you can call it a dashboard. Suricata is not running here because I'm already running it on the network, so I didn't need Suricata on this side. But as you can see, we do have our DC is actually showing up here on Windows events. So our Windows events were being sent. We see a spike in Windows events here. Sysmon the same way. We spiked here. It's very unfortunate because PowerShell logging didn't actually show me the alerts here. But anyway, let's go and search for what we did. For starters, let's find out our mimikez. I'm going to ask Sysmon. Let's say the last hour. I can do index is equals to O and say Sysmon. Mimikez. I'm doing this to see what does it look like. We should see some traffic from at least Sysmon. All right. So within Splunk, we have a few hits here. Actually, 29 events in the last hour that merged. Let's pick on this one, for example. This is when we generated our ticket, I think. Yeah, this is when we generated our golden ticket right here. And you can see it came from Sysmon. And this is the location from where we ran our mimikez. And this is how we ran mimikez, the image that we ran. lsass.exe. Let's search for that. It should show up somewhere. Yes. So what happened here? No. Let's filter. Let's do an and. What is the name of the machine? Computer name is dc.windomain.local. And its computer name. Equals dc let's find out. All right, now that's interesting. This is when I start getting excited. Wow, we did see it a lot of times. Okay, so you can tell right away that mimikez was ran. Our intrusion detection system saw mimikez, at least it detected it. Of course, our security onion is not tuned enough because I'm pretty sure we can see mimikez being moved across the network as well. If we go and start searching for it here in the discover section, we should be able to see that file across the network. We're seeing it executed on the host. We saw it also get caught by Strucker, which is kind of exciting. All right, what else can we see here? I'm going to leave the host name the same. Netcat, when I'm looking for Netcat here, I want to see the command that we ran to get a reverse shell. We should see that command directly on the system. Fingers crossed, because there's no reason why we shouldn't see that command when we say netcat -exe, then we put our IP address and CMD. All right. There we go. So there should be, if your Splunk is set up correctly, there should have been a rule that would have caught silly business like this, where that says, hey, this is potentially a reverse shell being executed. In Netcat has been executed. I don't have any rules in my Splunk. I'm just interacting with the raw data. But this is our Netcat when we ran it. The same thing should happen when we did a setutil command. We actually did this a couple of times, it looks like. And you can see it happened in here. Expand that. Yes, this one is in the temp directory. The reason why we like this stuff is because it demystifies this idea that people who are doing detection are doing this obscure, grandiose thing. It's nothing special, right? Once you know like what generates the traffic, all we need to do now is learn how to create the rules to detect this stuff. And we have come full circle. We know how the traffic moved across the network, and we also know the limitations of what we're doing, right? This we should be able to see on the host because we're using sysmon. What we are seeing it in security onion, attackers have ways to, hide that traffic. If they are sophisticated attackers, you'll probably not see that traffic is in plain text like the way we are doing here. I think we are oversimplifying things, but if they're lazy, which most attackers are, you see it in plain text. Okay, so this was our reverse shell on port 644. The same thing is when we did setutil. Why would you want to identify this traffic? You can tell a story now. Okay, so someone came in here and ran setutil. We should see the full command as well. But sysmon talks. Oh yeah, this one. I don't remember putting these switches. They were put by default. Oh, they were put by that website because I triggered it from that website. It shows you the service that we ran it with, and also, as you can see here, we downloaded mimikez to the temp folder using setutil. So this is just very simple detection. Is it there? How can we write rules to make sure that when setutil is ran, we trigger on that, and how can we make sure that we detect? In this case, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people with sysmon who have a rule that is excited to see things like this, especially given that the command line strings 2 applications, right? I mean 3 applications really. We are using the command line cmd.exe through this executable to run setutil to download mimikez. I would think for sure that good people who know how to write rules correctly, they will look for behavior that looks like this, where an application is calling another one to call another one to do a service. That usually doesn't work that way in Windows. And threat hunters also look for this type of behavior. All right. So Splunk did show us a few things. Another command that people like to check for is that command that I kept running over and over again. The who am I? I think it usually gets caught all the time. Who am I.exe. So as an attacker, maybe we shouldn't run this command. I'll find another way of getting your username, because who am I is like a biggest red flag. Like, whoa, someone just typed who am I on the system. Especially if you do a who am I /priv, or that's even worse. So you try and find out who you are from the system. This information that we're seeing is directly coming from the system, from sysmon, to our Splunk. The good thing and the cool thing about that is we can correlate that to the network. The network will also tell us the same deal, right? So if I say discover, I'm going to do the same deal. I want to see set2 running. I want to see set2 moving. First, this is just the last hour. Maybe just set2. I should be able to see it. Okay, so set2 does set its own HTTP user agent, apparently. And we see it several times as well. This is just a bro event. If you wanted more information, you can pull a pcap like we always do and verify that it's actually there. So set2 was ran. You can do this to try to figure out if you saw a host running set2 and you want to see, okay, what is the scope of that command? Where else did these attackers run set2? That's where you can do that. Set2. I think I can do. Can I do a group by? What is the field for host name? Server.ip. I can do that. Okay, I see 6 hits. Why didn't this thing group? Okay. I'm just going to filter by that. This will show me all the set2 commands that were ran against this client here, 119 in this case. And then, of course, if there was another client, I'll be able to tell from here. All right. And what else did we do? 6644. We should see that traffic for that port coming here. Okay, let's move these and that. I see 1 hit because I only did it once. So this is our reverse shell again. So if your sysmon for whatever reason didn't show, hopefully this connection to some random port will also be confirmation for you that indeed from our host, we reached out to 192.168.32.0.1, which is our Kali Linux, and a connection was established in this case. All right. This is really cool stuff. So far, what we've learned is mimikez does get caught, and if you have good host-based intrusion detection system, there are indicators of compromise that you can create rules for, like that LASS in mimikez behaviors. I found a guide on detecting with mimikez that I'm hoping we can use in the future. And I think this GitHub here, for those who might be interested more, this GitHub page does have all the commands that I was using. The debug, or maybe not all of them. But I really liked what they had on this GitHub page. Someone had a nice guide on how to actually detect mimikez. If anyone has a better one, please let me know. But because I'm more interested in actually setting up better detection for mimikez now that we know how it runs, to make sure that things can be detected. All right. Please let me know if you have any questions or if there's something that you would like me to do. We've been here for a while now, and this was fun. Expect more content in along these lines where we go and explore and we break into things. Most of the time, when people um, get on systems, it's not because of vulnerable applications. They can target people using phishing. I just don't want to send myself a link and phish myself. So finding simple applications like these gives us even that more practice on learning how to look for simple public exploits as ways of breaking into systems. But this was a nice one. It's actually still the latest CVE that's out there, which is kind of interesting. All right, let me know if you have any questions or if you have any feedback. I think I did this one last time too. Yeah. Oh, this one I really wanted to do a Zabbix one. This will be interesting. Matthew said I should move to morning streams. Yeah, I have a 2.5-year-old. I would hate to miss time during the day with him to do live streams. I only do this once he goes to bed. Maybe once he's older, I can move to morning. But because I have a kid, I have to make sure that I'm out there with him, play, spend some time, all that good stuff. Yeah, and I'm planning on spending more time in Splunk, especially if I can get. I hope Splunk gives me a better enterprise license so I can actually have some rules in here. It'll be really cool to create more rules and dashboards and have even that threat hunting dashboard that we always like. I've seen some really cool stuff from boss of the SOC happening. Thank you. All right, so we have been here for too long now. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I really appreciate everyone. Please remember to like, subscribe, and let everyone know this is really cool stuff. Try the machine by yourself and do other attacks and set up your own detection lab. Otherwise, we plan on doing more Active Directory attacks. Next time, we'll probably move to other tools. I really like Bloodhound. I'll try Bloodhound probably next time, or other enumeration tools that might be interesting. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next week, same time, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Have a good one.